Recording in progress.
ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। So we are in the section where we find that the Lord is asserting, Krishna is asserting, and then the divine incarnation has incarnated. And we can relate to his life as per his divine spiritual dimension is concerned. We can know him in essence, tattvata. Then he is assuring us that know it for certain that you will be liberated. This is going to be your last birth. You are not going to be born anymore. You will be transcending this cycle, this eternal cycle of birth and death. So what was the sloka, the 9th sloka of the 4th chapter? Janma karma chame divyam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So he who thus knows truly the divine birth, this janma, divya janma is divine birth, and divine actions, divya karma is divine actions. So those who knows truly the divine birth and the divine actions of mind, so they won't get rebirth. So after casting off their body, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sojana. And he attains me. Mam eti means he attains me after his death. So this is the idea which we find Bhagavan is indicating. As in the last class also we were indicating that Ramakrishna used to say that you won't have to do much to these devotees of his inner circle. He's saying he won't have to do much. Once you know who I am and who you are and what's the relation between you and me, if you know it, that's enough. So 3 things: who I am, who you are, and what's the relation between you and me. So that's the idea which we find in our scriptures. That what the Divya Janma speaks of, that we are gravitate, we are forced to take birth as per our samskaras, as per our latent impressions. We are almost forced to take birth. It's just like as long as the desire is there, something like gravitation is acting upon us, upon our so-called the subtle body, and it's almost forcing us to take the body to fulfill those desires. We are born in those favorable circumstances where our predominant desires will be fulfilled. But Bhagavan has no desires. So why his janma is divya? Because he resorts to his own maya, as we have already studied. Sambhavami Atma Maya. In the 6th sloka, this phrase was there. That Sambhavami, I reincarnate again and again by resorting to my own maya. The maya has no, as such, influence on me. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the snake whose bite is going to inflict poison in us, that snake itself is always carrying that poison with it in its own poison snack, its venom snack. It's always with it. But that poison doesn't affect the snake. The one to whom it bites, he gets affected. He gets inflicted by that poison. So the same thing Bhagavan is saying. It is Maya is his. He is the Mai. His is the Maya. He is the magician. His is the magic. Those who are seeing the magic, they get deluded by the magic. The magician is never deluded by the magic. He knows what he is doing. So that is his Leela. That is his show, magic show. So his birth is apparent. It's not something which is as real as ours. The way we feel, ours is also not real. But the way we feel, because of ignorance, that I am this body, I am this mind, I am these senses. My interaction with the senses to the world, these are all real. The world is real. So that way we feel and we interact with the world by thinking it to be a tangible reality and the be-all and end-all of our existence. So here Bhagavan, out of compassion, is resorting to this birth, and that's why it is Divya Janma and Divya Karma. All our actions are bound by our desires. The Lord has no desires. It is out of His infinite compassion, unbound compassion, for three reasons. That also has been indicated in the previous sloka. That what? That to vinashaya dushkritam, to get rid of the wicked, and paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the virtuous, and what? Dharma samsthapana, to establish the religion. He comes again and again. Sambhavami yuge yuge. So that's the purpose. Like us, he is not born because of his desires. So then he is saying, Yo vetti tattvata. This is very important. Then we say, we know that Krishna is Bhagavan. But it is just a mere verbal, you're asserting verbally. Do we really feel from the bottom of our heart? So that's tattvata word is important. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that for most of us, when we say that we believe in God, we believe in divine incarnation, we worship the divine incarnation as God, it's all mere words. Those who don't believe, they don't come to the question. Even those who believe, most of us, it is mere words. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that Khuri Jethir, in Bengali, Khuri Jethir Kodol Shune, Ishwarer Dibbi Shekha. What is that? There are small children in a joint family. Sometimes they see their elderlies, their mother, their aunties, they are quarreling. And maybe there is, in the quarrel, someone is not believing the others, what they are saying. Maybe some sort of things they are relating, which the other says, no, I haven't done. And then the other to assert that, no, that's the thing. I really mean. He will say God's promise, Ishwarer Dibbi, God's promise. And the children listen to that. That the father, the mother, the aunties, they're all quarreling and just to assert, they're saying God's promise. I'm saying this, that's what I mean. And the children learn the word, God's promise. And when these children quarrel among themselves, they also use the same word, God's promise. So neither the father, mother, neither the grandparents know who God is. And they're promising the name of God. The children have learned. So that word is a mere word. So in our Upanishads, they say it is ativada. Ativada. Vada means speech. Ati means when we are speaking something which is beyond our realization. I haven't realized. I just go on speaking. In the life of Ramakrishna, is a wonderful thing we find. That when in Dakshineshwar he was considered as a monomaniac, a few of the highly spiritually evolved souls, like Bhairavi Brahmani, they came and asserted that he is a divine incarnation. Others don't know, but somehow that word passed through various mouths, and the young Bengal started coming, the many devotees started coming, and they also started saying that he is avatar. And Ramakrishna never used to give importance to the words. In his own simple way, he used to say, Keu kore daktari, keu kore okaluti, abar bole avatar. Someone is by profession a medical doctor. Someone by profession is a lawyer. What they know about this? Just it's a hearsay. So if someone is a medical doctor, is daktari. Okalut is a lawyer. Abar bole avatar. What they have understood. And when someone will just come to him and tell directly, and then he will say, oh, you have a measuring instrument. With that you have measured that what a great avatar I am. So what's the idea behind it? That most of us don't believe, are not interested. Even those who are believe, it is just mere word. It is just a belief. It is just like something doctrine and dogma to which we prescribe. Then who actually can know him tattvata? If we cannot know him tattvata, it is just a mere belief for us. So here comes the importance of spiritual practice. Somehow, most probably I have read some scriptures or books, or have accidentally went to some place where some spiritual discussion was going on. Somehow I had an inkling of the spiritual dimension of my existence and started developing a hankering, an earnest hankering to resort to that type of life, to get established in that conviction that after all this life is transitory, something within me is permanent. The conscious principle which goes through no change, it is eternal, it is always fulfilled. It has nothing to desire. But we won't realize in our life. And we try, whatever the scriptures has prescribed, earnestly we are trying, and we find our limitations. That we don't succeed. Why we don't succeed? In the word of Ramakrishna, we are like a mongoose. A mongoose, the mischievously what they did, they tied a piece of stone in the tail of the mongoose. And when the mongoose was just moving around, it never felt the weight of it. But it stayed in a hole which was bit up the wall. So now when it was trying to climb the wall and go into its hole, the weight of the stone was pulling it down again and again. So that's our condition. So we are like the mongoose with a weight in our tail. It doesn't allow us to get established in the state which speaks of our divine dimension. That's our real nature. And we find that limitation. And then we find a life, wonderful life, where he is spontaneous living. He's not trying. That we speak of renunciation. Even in the life of Ramakrishna, just as we always study it, this life comes to our mind always. You know that we say renunciation is something which is the essential factor of a spiritual life. And for that you will find even the great soul, the avatars, have to physically renounce. Buddha renounced his wife, earth and home, and resorted the path of spiritual practice. You find in the life of even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this you will find that renunciation is something physical. They have to resolve and then renounce. In the life of Ramakrishna, you will find it is something spontaneous. But it happened means when his his mother was very much worried when she had heard that Ramakrishna has gone mad, and she was insisting that he should marry. He married. He himself actually told where his wife is. And that he told, you just go to such and such village, you will find that that one such and such girl has been henpecked. Means in the village, when a tree is fruit laden, so anyone may come and pluck the fruit because there are so many children and other. So the parents, they will do, they will tie some piece of cloth in a particular fruit and say, so this is yet unripe, it is yet to be ripened. So when it gets ripened, it has already been offered to the divine. Don't touch it. Once it gets ripened, we will offer. So it has already been selected. So that way, Ramakrishna told, by the divine will, it has already been selected. You go to such and such village, you will find that little 5-year-old girl was there. So, and then when they really started leading the marriage life much later, when she was now young and she went to Dakshineshwar, you find there is no trace of attachment, so-called worldly attachment. The life is there is a love, wonderful love. But that love speaks of the spirit meeting the spirit. They do both recognize the spiritual dimension in each other. In the real love, there is respect, a wonderful respect we find. So the renunciation was something spontaneous. So when you read those lives, Samadhi is something spontaneous. That is his state of his existence. The mind is always in that state. He has to resort to some small desires, like drinking water. When his mind is getting merged in Samadhi, out of compassion, as he wants to relate his experience to the devotees. He wants to come down to this level so that he can help the humankind. So he is taking small resolutions. I want to drink water. Just this small, just please bring me some food. Actually, he doesn't want. When he comes down after saying that from that state of Samadhi, someone brings water, he's not drinking. He's taking that resolution to bring the mind down from that state. So this Samadhi is spontaneous. In the life of Krishna, when you will find that whenever he has to get hold of the Sudarshan Chakra, that he speaks of immense power. Say in his left hand with this small finger, he's holding the Sudarshan Chakra. That it is as if it is a matter of game. He doesn't need that tremendous power. So this Krishna's holding Sudarshan Chakra sometimes reminds of in a small episode in Ramakrishna's life. You know, Hajra Mahashaya, one of a distant relative of Ramakrishna, used to stay in Dakshineshwar along with Ramakrishna, and he always used to feign that he's a very holy man. And he will always have a rosary with which he is always practicing japam. Seeing him one day, Ramakrishna told, "What are you doing?" "No, I am repeating the name of the Lord." And Ramakrishna told, "I can never use this rosary. Will you please give your rosary?" So Hajra Mahashaya gave rosary to Ramakrishna. So same, Ramakrishna took the rosary in his left hand. And just one bead he has turned and he went into deep Samadhi. So that's how he cannot use the rosary. He went to deep Samadhi. So just seeing this life, you get overwhelmed. Those who are really trying, those who have no interest in the spiritual life, for them the question doesn't arise. But those who have started leading this life and find how difficult it is for me to go to that state, and that is his spontaneous state. His Leela Kaivalyam, just he is there in that state. He has came down from that high state to this state so that we can rise. Leela dhore dhore nitya java. Hold on to the Leela so that you can at last go to the Nitya. So that's why he comes down to do the Leela. So this is the one who can understand that, the one who has really sincerely started this journey. Then this life overwhelms them. It creates a tremendous awe. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "Juhuri juhuri ke chene, johor chene." It's only a jeweler who knows the worth of a jewel. What's the worth of a jewel? If you take to an ordinary person, he won't know. It's only the jeweler who knows. Who is the jeweler? The one who is a sincere spiritual aspirant. He or she, by his or her endeavors, I've understood that it's not that easy. It's very easily said than done. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, "Tablar bol, mukhe bola sahoj, hate ana kothin." All the spiritual truth you can teach even to a small child, he will memorize and he can give a wonderful lecture. What Sri Ramakrishna is saying is interesting. Tablar bol, this percussion, tabla. The teacher comes and he first will just recite the rhythm. Ta dhinna, dha dhinna, ta terikete, dha terikete, whatever he may recite. And he will ask you, so please repeat. And it takes just only 1 or 2 minutes. You will also start saying that rhythm. Now he says, now start playing. Now it will take months. So tablar bol, the rhythm of the percussion, mukhe bola sahoj, is very easy to say. Hate ana, to bring it in your hand, it takes time. So that's the thing which we start realizing in our life. And we see a life where he's doing something spontaneously. We will see as a student in the class, it has happened to us. The maths teacher comes and most probably some equation he's solving. Step by step, and he asks, have you understood? The student says yes. And we feel it's easy. He just dusts with a duster, he just cleans the board and asks the student come and do. And then you find that he was doing it so spontaneously, it seemed to be so easy. Now you find you are getting stuck in each and every step, isn't it? So that's the thing, that it is not that easy. Their spontaneous life makes us feel it's so easy, but it's not that easy. So that creates a sense of awe. And this awe faculty, awe, reverence, is something as a human being we all have. We cannot in any way stifle it. It has to find expression. We give an example. Nowadays, when we try to relate the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata to the children, even the parents sometimes say, oh, it's very difficult. Because they will be questioning so much. How can Hanuman jump from there to the Sri Lanka? And I have no answer. All those questions he will be asking, so many mythical things, mysterious things, means all those supernatural things are there. How can I explain to my child? But we forget one thing. The child comes back from the school, throws his school bag, and then he will be running in front of a screen, opening what he will be seeing, or she will be seeing. All this comics, the Spider-Man, this Batman, nowadays so many are there. And what all sorts of unnatural things they are doing. In the name of reason, in the name of scientific way of rationalization, we sometimes don't relate those stories to the children, but the children are doing the same thing. Some different other stories. Why they are doing it? Because the awe faculty is something which is within us. In our scriptures they say, Sa Anantaya Kalpate. As a human being, we are having that uniqueness. I cannot think myself limited. Ananta. Something within me is echoing that you are unlimited. And to realize that unlimitedness, we are doing every time. With your work, you get, in your work, you get bored, monotonous. You have the same work, same life. And to get rid of that, what we do? Take a few days leave and go to some mountain or go to some near the ocean. That's what we do, to some scenic place, isn't it? What we are doing there? You're just standing in front of the Himalayas, the range of mountains. The sense of infinity is involved in it. Oh, so vast, so vast. And just by observing, you forget everything. You lose yourself for the time being. You're standing in front of the ocean. The same thing happens. That vastness overwhelms you. For the time being, you forget yourself. That all the baggage you are carrying has fallen off for the time being. A tremendous relaxation ensues. I was just listening to some wonderful exposition that why in Vedic culture the zero was discovered. Some politician, but his exposition I liked. Very interesting. That why we discovered zero. And he's telling that because we had the idea of infinity. That's why we discovered zero. How? Let's see, in an ordinary state of life, our mind is engaged with thousands of things, isn't it? So if one entity, say X is divided by 100 or whatever it may be. So the joy which comes out of all this is very little. The more your mind gets concentrated, focused, the more you can give off so many distractions, unnecessary things. The number you're dividing with is getting less. So your happiness factor is becoming more and more. The last thing to give up is your own ego. That I cannot give up this idea that I am this body-mind complex. I am. This idea that I am this local consciousness, this limited consciousness. There's a locality. When I close my eyes, ears, all the senses, sitting quietly at a place, without any thoughts, I have an idea that I. And that I has a locality. It's not something non-local. So that is something which I can never get rid of. the spiritual practices through which at last you give out your I. So not what remains, nothing. So x is divided by 0, what it becomes? Infinity. So the moment you go beyond your ego, you find your amness has no locality. We can get an inkling of it. So when you get up from a deep sleep, most probably on the weekend, after your lunch, you had a nice siesta. That's not the time generally you take rest. But as that's the holiday, so you had a nice siesta, you wake up, and sometimes you will find you are standing in front of your bathroom mirror with the brush and the paste. What has happened? You have forgotten the time. Because generally it's only in the morning you do. So your amness is there, but the idea of time you have forgotten. And sometimes it happens that your bed's direction has been changed. Previously when you used to get up, the bed was in the wall, and so you used to get up from the left side. Now you have changed the wall. The bed is on the other side. So you have to get up from the right side, and you will find you go and crash on the wall. Why? When you have got up, at that moment your amness is there, but for the time being, that amness is very pure. It is beyond time, space, causation. That is not there. So just to give an idea that amness beyond all this locality, something, that's the thing in which you get established when you go to that state. So that's our reality. Means sometimes we explain it in a different way, that the conscious principle, which is non-local, is getting reflected in the body-mind complex, and seeing the reflection, I take the reflection to be real, and that I think I am. It is just the reflection. It is just the echo of the eternity. And that echo actually speaks of what? Why we think ourselves infinite. I see I am a limited body-mind complex, but something beyond me is infinite. That is echoing through me. Though I am mistaking myself as if something unlimited, but I cannot be unlimited. It is just the reflection. That echo from the source, which is unlimited. It is always there. That makes us feel I am unlimited. So even in a small child, you find that awe factor is working. For us, even when we are going for some excursion, that awe faculty is working. Awe, that I want to relate to something which is much bigger than life. Always. Because something is echoing behind me. And we find there's a lot of limitations. I cannot do that. But whenever I see some personality, whether it is real or imaginary, I start getting identified with it. A small child, what it does, after seeing Superman, he will go to the market and insist his parents to buy those vests with that mark of that Superman. You have seen the Superman wears vests and all. Why? They also try to be like that, to identify. That whenever the children are seeing movies and there's some the star, the way he is having his haircut, the way he dressed, they will try to imitate that. Why? I want to get identified with that, isn't it? That awe faculty is working. So here also, in spiritual life, those who are sincere spiritual aspirants, for them the role model is the one for whom everything is spontaneous, lila kaivalyam. And seeing them, that awe faculty develops. And now they try to identify more and more with that personality. As Ramakrishna used to say, Je jar chinta kore, she tar shatta paye. When the one of whom you constantly think, you will find gradually you are imbibing his nature or her nature. And that's the thing happens here. The more you meditate on that personality, that's why the sadhu sangha is so important. You find you're trying your best for leading a very good spiritual life. Nothing is happening. And you just go to a sadhu, real sadhu, sit in front of him, and suddenly you find, without doing anything, your mind is changing. Why? It's only the life can enkindle the life. That seeing the life, that awe factor is working, you feel more and more drawn towards that. And now the motivation factor is something which is already been built, and it becomes the thing which was you felt so hard, becomes very easy. Because someone is holding onto you. So that's why they're saying once you realize that He is the God incarnate. And then you know it tattvata. It's not just mere belief, tattvata. In essence, you have understood because you have already started your journey. And seeing the spontaneity in such a life, you get drawn towards it. And that helps you to rise in love. So we always use the word fall in love. We never say rise in love. Why we fall in love? Because most of our love is infatuation. The same faculty works. That I find so much of imperfection in me, and suddenly I meet someone. Initially, I feel all those imperfections which are in me, that person represents the perfection. All those imperfections, he is bereft of that. Actually, I'm projecting my idea of perfection into that person, and then that faculty starts working. So initially, it all goes okay, but no human being can be perfect, and then the infatuation is gone. And that's why we say we have fallen. We have fallen. That's why, as even in the last class, we gave that example. When Swami Vivekananda in the West was giving lecture and they were speaking of Vedanta, the idea of the non-dual consciousness, Brahman. Someone from the audience stood up and told, you are speaking of the non-dual consciousness, but you are all idolatrous. You worship idols. You're speaking of the non-dual consciousness beyond form, beyond all attributes, but you believe in idols. You worship idols. Swami Vivekananda never gave the answer directly. He had a very mischievous smile in his face. He went near that person and told, he was a young boy. He told, well, you, the so-called Americans, young Americans, you are also the idol worshippers. He said, how come we are idol worshippers? We don't worship idols. Well, why don't you kneel down in front of a young lady and say you are angel? Isn't it an idol worship? So that was Swami Vivekananda's answer. Isn't it an idol? What actually is happening? The same faculty do work. When it has not been nourished in spiritual endeavor, it is bound to find expression, because it's something which cannot stifle. It finds expression as infatuation of a young man. Not only that, in the present world, all the terrorism you will find, destructive terrorism, behind that the same faculty is working. That if you kill the infidels, you go to heaven. The idea that of reaching some perfect state. But as it was not fed, even you will find the belief, those who are believing are all educated person. Because with the reason doesn't work. You will find, however, we may say that man is rational, that all faculty is such which simply throws off the reason. He has to resort to it. But if it has not been nourished in the proper way, it is going to lead us to distraction. It is going to make us fall in love. The only way we can rise in love is hold on to the avatar. That's the thing. When you hold on to that, this faculty is taking you spirally upwards. And at last you find that though nothing can hold you back, you have gone beyond this cycle of birth and death. How it has happened? As in the Bible it is mentioned, worship the Spirit by the Spirit. When you know the avatara in tattva, in essence, what you know? That he is the soul, the spirit, the Paramatman. He is the Kshetragya. He is the knower of the field in each and every one of us. He is the Paramatman sitting there in the core of our being. And it is his birth is just apparent. It's not something real. And that's the fact actually with me. Somehow I don't know. I am also the spirit. I am not this body-mind complex. So the moment you can relate this, the spirituality in the divine and its eternal communionship, relationship with the spirit which is within you, that is called this tattvam padartha shodhanam. You know, when you say tattvamasi, that you are that, the divine, the God, and you are same, not as per the attributes are concerned. He is Mayadhish. He is the ruler of the Maya, of this world. And I am Mayadhin. I am bounded by this. But these are the attributes. But in essence, he is the consciousness, I am the consciousness. That's the essence. You leave off the attributes, and as consciousness, we are one. So that's how, by worshipping the divine, by relating through that awe faculty with reverence to that idea that he is beyond all this, the so-called polarities of life, all the dvandva, is beyond that. The more you relate, then this in essence what you are, that relates with that, the divine aspect of God. The attributes all fall off. That the idea of rulership, the idea of being bound, that fall off. And the conscious principle, that's the thing which unites through eternity. That it's actually always united. We somehow are forgetful about it. So we again get back our memory that somehow I was dreaming and the dream has broke, and then again I become aware of my real nature. As once, the stories are wonderful, that Narada wanted to know what Maya is. He was always with Krishna, and he was just walking down some village along with Krishna. It's also in the complete works, it's one of the lectures of Swamiji. And then Narada asked Krishna that, can you explain me what is your Maya? Krishna told, okay, well, I'm a bit thirsty, first get me a glass of water. So Narada found that village nearby. He goes and knocks the door of a particular house, and a young beautiful woman opens the door. Narada starts just conversing with her, and he falls in love with that. So he asks the father of the girl to permit her, means to give her in marriage. And he got married. He started living in the village. He was leading a very happy life. They had 2 children. They were very happy. And then one night, a flood came. The dam by the side of the river that broke because of heavy rain, and the water was flooding in. And the water, because of this, the water was flooding the village. They tried to cross the river. So now Narada with his wife and 2 children. In one hand, he held one of the child. In another hand, the elder child was in one hand. In another hand, he held his wife, and the young child was on his shoulder. With this, he was trying to cross the river. The flow was so strong because of the heavy this downpour. The child who was sitting on his shoulders, he was washed away. To get hold of the child, he now had to release the hand with which he was holding the elder child, and now he was also washed away. And now to get hold of both the child, he just let loose the other hand also. The wife was also washed away, and he was yelling, crying, and somehow he himself was also being washed away. But somehow he found after some time he was unconscious. Luckily, he got stuck by some rock on the side of the river, and that saved him from being washed away. He somehow was saved. He got his consciousness, but found no one. His wife, his both children are gone, and he was crying piteously that everything is gone, wailing, crying. And then suddenly he felt someone is tapping on his shoulder. He looked back. Krishna, where is my glass of water? So that's the Maya. So that's the Maya in which we are. So that's what she is saying, that we are dreaming. But it just needs a pat, just a pat. It just needs a pat to get out of the dream. In the dream, we have spent so many years, so many lives. Even in a dream, it may happen that we were going through so many years, so many tribulations. And when the dream is, when it is about to enter into a state of nightmare, most probably we yelled, shouted, and someone came and tapped. And you come out of the dream, or then you find, oh, it's a dream. So like that, the dream of this infinite birth and death, they all fall off when once we can somehow relate to the divine tattvata in his sense, through the spiritual essence. And then through this awe, this reverence, our so-called delusion starts falling off. We start relating more and more with that the divine aspect of that life. He's not an ordinary human being. And that's the thing. That's why even you will find that Swami Vivekananda, when he came back from the West, all the young brahmacharis who have joined, they were asking for some instruction, that the do's and don'ts, some definite way of life which can help them to progress in spiritual life. And Swami Vivekananda, this is not in the complete works, it's in our oral tradition. He used to say very interesting thing. He used to say that ja korar, whatever has to be done, tar dher korechi. I have done more than that. Tora shudhu dege ja. This dege jawa, this is not even used in Bengali nowadays. It was an old Bengali. What is dege jawa is very important. This dege jawa word came from dag. Dag even in Hindi say to mark, which to just write. So this dag means to highlight something or to sketch something. So what he's saying, Tora shudhu dege jawa. What the dege jawa means what? That how as a child we learned writing. As a child, we all learned writing. How? Most probably our parents, my mother or my father or my teacher. They wrote on a paper or on some the slate some alphabet. And then they got hold of our hands, and with the pen in our hand, they helped us to just go on scribbling over the writing which they have written, isn't it? They have written some alphabets or some digits, and we were asked to scribble over that. And by scribbling over that again and again, we have learned writing. The mother has written A. I tried to write the A just by scribbling over the A which mother has written, and gradually that's how we have learned writing. So he's saying the same thing. This life of the avatar is just like the alphabets of life, the ABCD of life. They have written. It's there. Go on scribbling over it. Go on cogitating upon it, contemplating upon it. Swami Vivekananda used to say, what's the real education? It's not gathering of information. It's so more applicable nowadays. It's not gathering of information. It's just to take one idea and leave it. Let that become your dream. Let that become the only source of your nourishment. And he used to give a wonderful example. You know how the pearls are formed? That a particular type of mollusk, when it gets irritated by a sand particle in the ocean or in the river, they will dive deep along with the sand particle in the river bed or in the ocean bed, whatever it may be, and they will start salivating over that sand particle. They will start salivating. And this saliva, this secretion of the mollusk on that sand particle at last becomes condensed, saturated, crystallized to form the pearl. The pearl is formed by the crystallization of the secretion of that particular mollusk. That's how the pearl is formed. So Swamiji is saying that it's not that gathering information, knowing thousands of things, that speaks of our spiritual evolution. Get hold of the idea, the life of the avatar, even his just name, because the name is the encoding in the name. The moment you say the word Krishna or whatever divine personalities to which you are devoted, the moment you say that word is the encoded form of the entire life. The entire life is behind that. So contemplation on that is just like your secreting on that sand particle, that your mantra, your meditation on the life is just like salivating, secreting over that sand particle. And then you find the life has transformed. It has become something like pearl. So now nothing can bind you. You have got established in your spiritual essence. And that speaks of your worth. That speaks of your value. And that's what Bhagavan is saying in this sloka. That you realize your spiritual dimension. You know that in essence you are the spirit. Everything else is just a mere flow. The moment you lose your identification with that, you get established in yourself. Nothing is there to bind you. Nothing is there to again bring you down to this plane of existence. So know the essence of your being by contemplating in the tattva of the divine incarnation. So after saying this, the next sloka, what he's saying, that he says it's not just for you or Arjuna. This is the thing which has happened through ages, following parampara, following a lineage. So many sages has lived this life. After and living the life, they went to the realization, And after realizing, they instructed, they guided others in that path, and those also got realized, and that way the succession went on. Just the way we have our biological inheritance, there is a spiritual inheritance also. And that's the idea of parampara. That's been spoken of in the next sloka. That what it is? Vitaraga bhayakrodha. Manmaya mam upasritaha. Bahavo jnana tapasa. Puta madbhavam agataha. Vita raga bhayakrodha. So those who are devoid of raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, anger. These three are related. All comes from attachment. When you know the thing you are desiring for, there are some factors which doesn't allow. You may get rage for the one who is hindering, and the bhaya also comes from that. That we are so attached to life. That's why we fear death. The fear of death speaks of attachment to life. So this raga, bhaya, krodha, these three all have its origin in the raga. The one who has gone beyond that. One who has, for whom it has fallen off. It's not that he has, you cannot get rid of raga, bhaya, krodha. It has to fall off. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when you have some, you are injured, you have some injury, and it is healing. And when it is healing, a scab is formed over the injury. And now you will find the children are sometimes impatient. They try to remove the scab. So you say, if you forcefully remove the scab, the wound will lacerate. It won't heal, it will lacerate. You have to allow the scab to fall off by itself. Renunciation is something like that. It falls off by itself. You cannot force it. So for this Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha speaks of that. That for the person for whom this attachment, anger, fear has fallen off. How it has fallen off? Manmaya. By constantly contemplating on me. Mam upasrita. Taking me to be the only refuge. Because content them as I am the only refuge. The Lord is the only refuge, and constantly contemplating on the Lord, taking him to be the only refuge. Many. That any medicine can be patented only when we find that it is effective. A case study has been done for 100, and we find that it is in 99% case or 90% case it is effective. And then we say this medicine can be patented. So here Bhagavan is saying that the thing which I am saying, know it for certain, is patented. So many have followed. So many have followed and reached the goal. Bahavo, many. Jnana tapasa is purified by this knowledge and austerity. There's knowledge and austerity. What is the knowledge of the self? And austerity by performing your swadharma. That in your life, in whatever situation you are placed, you don't simply run away from it. You do it perfectly. It is performance oriented, not result oriented. You don't want a result. That God has given me these faculties. I use those faculties to become a channel of the divine, to instrument as an instrument of the divine. And there it ends. He knows why he is making me do all those things. It is he who knows. Doing it perfectly, there ends. So that is the tapas, the real tapas. You're not standing in one leg. To do your swadharma with the attitude of neither seek nor avoid. I don't want to gain something out of it, nor I want to avoid it. Most of the time we think by avoiding I am renouncing. No. By avoiding we want to go to the security zone. We want to go to the comfort zone. It's not avoiding nor seeking. Doing your swadharma with detachment. That is the tapas, and constantly keeping the contemplation of the self or the contemplation of God in your mind. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, ek hate karma karo, ek hate ishwar ke dhare thako. So do the work with one hand, with the other hand hold on to the Lord. Don't hold on to this world with both the hands. with one hand hold on to the Lord, with the other hand do your work. And when you go, your work is over, with both the hands you hold on to the Lord. So this Jnana Tapas speaks of that as long as we are in this state of our existence, we have to go through this. We cannot avoid it, we cannot run away from it, but do it with that sense of detachment. That speaks of the tapas. So many, through this Jnana Tapas, has purified themselves. And then by being always contemplating on me as the self, the Paramatma of their self, the self of their self, as a Paramatma. As we will find in the 13th chapter, the idea of Kshetra and Kshetragya will come. That know this body is with the field, and the one who is the essence of your being, the one who knows what is the difference between the artificial intelligence and a human being. They may be doing everything perfectly like a human being. It has not developed now, but the science is asserting that the days are near when they will be as good as a human being. They will be doing everything perfectly. Then how to distinguish between these two? The very basic thing, even in artificial intelligence, they speak of, that there is an aspect of consciousness, that's something which perturbs the science. What is that? They call it qualia. That when I am doing something, I know I am doing something. When I am seeing, I know I am seeing. So the big question is that by replicating the working of your brain with the help of your computer, I can make the artificial intelligence do the things perfectly as we do. Because all those encoding, decoding which is going on in my brain, that I have replicated. But does the AI know when it is doing something that it is doing? When it is doing certain things, when it is perceiving certain things, when it is speaking, does it know that something within himself someone is saying that I am doing? That's the big question. So here the idea is that the one who is the Paramatma means what? The constantly who is witnessing whatever I am doing, whatever I am feeling. The witness, the eternal witness of myself, the Paramatma. The God is saying, know me to be the Kshetragya. I am the Kshetra, I am the knower of the field, and each and every person, Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Know me to be the Kshetragya in each and every field. Means in each and every body-mind complex, it is the same self who is there. Just like the sun, one sun is reflecting in thousands of waves in the ocean. Each wave has the reflection of the sun. The one sun appears as many as per the reflection is concerned. So similarly, know me to be the reflection in each and every being. Kshetragyam japi mam vidhi. So he is the Kshetragya. So when, by knowing him as the essence of your being, you become manmaya, you constantly contemplating on him, that will lead to vita raga bhaya krodha. This raga is attachment to the sensory objects, sensory attachment. What is bhaya? Fear of losing all those things. The things to which you are attached, the fear of losing is bhaya. And anger is what? This krodha is what? Those who obstruct in getting the things which you desire. You develop tremendous rage for them, that is krodha. The one who has gone beyond this. Who can go beyond this? The one who knows I am the self. Because anything, the desire is related to this body-mind complex. How we develop the desire? Again and again, that example which we give. In a petri dish, there's some, most probably microbes are moving freely. Through the microscope, you are looking to find out whether there is some animate objects or not. And for the young children, the science teacher says that there are some living beings there. They are not dust. Dust particles also move randomly. So from the microscope I am looking, it may appear to be all dust particles as if moving randomly. And to prove that they are not dust particles, they are a form of life, what the teacher will do, they will put some nutrient in the center of that petri dish. And you will find now those randomly moving dust particles have gathered direction. They're moving towards it. Instead of nutrient, you give some poison. Again you will find there's a direction, it's opposite. They're moving away from it. They want to avoid it. What it speaks of, the conscious principle, when it gets reflected in that micro body, now it starts thinking, I am this micro body. But at the same time, the idea that I am infinite is echoing. I am infinite. I cannot die. So microbe thinks, as a body I cannot die. It is confused by hearing the echo. When I shout and standing in front of the mountain, my own voice will be echoing. So I will feel that someone from the mountain is calling me, my own name. The same way, the self echoes from that limited micro body saying you're eternal. And now, this is the ignorance. It gets identified with that echo and tries to realize the eternity in that micro body. That I have to live forever. That's why whenever you give nutrient, it is drawn towards it. That speaks of attachment. Whenever the conscious principle is getting drowned in this limited existence because of ignorance, now comes the question of attachment. The one who is eternal, nothing can affect him. Now he thinks, as a body I have to be eternal. That's why he's getting drawn towards the nutrient, getting away from something which is going to destroy that. So raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, anger, hatred, fear, everything comes from the delusion. As self, nothing can kill me. I'm beyond all the casualties that I think can happen in this life, and beyond that, the essence of me. So yeah, automatically, the more you get drawn towards yourself, you become manmaya. You know the divine incarnation as the self, the Paramatma, the soul of your soul. The more you develop that detachment, the raga, dvesha, vinivesha starts falling off. As Swami Vivekananda in his lectures used to say that there's a design theory in Abrahamic religion, that the God created the world as it is, created human beings, but Darwin came and started saying, no, it has evolved from microbes gradually to the human being. So naturally, when Swami Vivekananda was representing Hinduism, the question was there, that what's your idea? Like in Abrahamic religions, they believe in design. Swamiji was they told, no, we have evolution. We do believe in the idea of evolution. But in our idea of evolution, there is one thing, that it is not a straight line. It is not a straight line, that infinite progression is going on. It's a circle. That we started from the perfection because of ignorance of the microbe body. What happens to the microbe body? As it thinks I am eternal, but it cannot realize the eternity in that microbe body, it starts evolving. How? A few microbe cells will conglomerate. To fight with the nature in a better way, they will conglomerate. And they will equip themselves. How? By having a group activity. That, okay, previously as a single cell, I was doing everything. That respiration, digestion, assimilation, everything was happening on the cell. Now when they conglomerate, there will be division of labor. And that's how, as an evolved human being, we find we have particular organ for our respiration, particular organ for our blood circulation, digestion, for our thoughts, thinking, everything. There's a different organ. We have become highly specialized. How? It was the fight against the nature, that I am eternal. Somehow the nature is oppressing me, is not allowing me to realize that eternity. I have to conquer nature. I have to go beyond the limitation. That's how you're evolving. As a human being, at last, we are the one who can realize this fact. What's the fact? That I'm already eternal. It is because of the ignorance. Hearing the echo from the body-mind complex, I tried to realize the eternity in something which is just a flow. You cannot never see the eternity there. I'm already eternal thing. So the ignorance falls off. So you go back to where from you started. From perfection you started. Because of ignorance, there was a biological evolution. And when this ignorance falls off, you again go back to that perfection. So that's what speaks of vitaraga. So when this ignorance starts falling off, when you become more and more attached to the self, then other things starts falling off spontaneously. You cannot force them out. The more you get attached to the self, the more other things starts falling off. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the more you go towards the east, the west automatically falls behind. You cannot push west. If you have to avoid west, go towards the east. The more you think of the Lord, the more you think of the essence of yourself, the more the worldly distractions naturally falls off. Even what to speak of the highest realization, even in our day-to-day life, know it for certain the mind cannot do multitasking. At a time, it can have only one thought. When we are doing multitasking, the mind is actually jumping from one activity to the other at a very fast pace, giving us an impression that we are multitasking, but we are not multitasking. We are jumping from one activity to the other in a very, very fast succession. So the mind has its limitation. It cannot do multitasking. Throughout the day, it has lots of thoughts. In present psychology, they say more than 60,000 thoughts we think throughout the day. But very interesting, at a time, only one thought. When we find that Swami Yogananda, as a young boy, came to Ramakrishna and told, I find my mind is very much distracted. It's getting attracted to the worldly way of living. How can I get rid of it? He told, just take the name of the Lord. To just chant the name of the Lord. As our Yogananda ji, he thought that it is too simple thing he's saying. How can, just by repeating the name of the Lord, I can get rid of all these desires? But as he had faith in Ramakrishna, he started really trying to practice, and within a few days he found that effect. That really his mind is calming down. The principle is simple. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that the best way to get rid of all the distractions is just go on taking the name of the Lord by clapping your hands. And he used to give a nice example. Suppose in a tree, lot of birds are sitting on the branches, and you stand beneath the tree and clap your hands, all the birds fly off. Just the moment you clap your hands. Similarly, when you clap your hands and take the name of the Lord, all the birds which represents your so-called evil way of thinking, papa, pakhi. So all these distractions, they start flying off. That's just the way when you clap your hands standing beneath the tree, the birds fly off. From though it for certain the same way, this body, mind complex is like the tree, where all it's attached with so many desires. Take the name of the Lord, they'll fly off. So when you think of something sublime, the other things are bound to fall off, because the mind cannot do multitasking. So the more you think of the Lord, the more the other thing starts falling off. You don't have to force them out. So that's the idea of manmaya. And mamupasrita, have refuge in me. Sometimes we may confuse that he is actually in Gita to make it anushtup chanda, to keep the rhythm correct. Sometimes they are using the words having same meaning. No. Mamupasrita has a different meaning from manmaya. That think of me, and think of me as the only refuge. There's a very subtle difference. I am the only refuge. With a story we will end this, because stories are the wonderful way of explaining these ideas. A milk, these Ramakrishna's parables are wonderful. So he's relating in his work, in his gospel, that a milkman every day had to cross the river to just give the milk, to supply the milk to one of the pandits, a learned scholar, who will be having a lot of students, just deliberating on the scriptures. He was a scholarly person, quite elderly person, very much revered. So he had to cross the river to bring that milk. And now she used to get delayed because always she won't get the ferry in correct time. The ferry sometimes is already full. She had to wait for the next ferry, and she used to get delayed. So one day this pandit asked that why you get delayed every day? My class starts, I'm with the students, and now you come with the milk. And she humbly told what to do, otherwise I don't get the ferry in time. And this pandit, after all, was a scholar, and he told that you just simply cannot cross the river. So many have crossed the river of life by taking the name of Lord, and you cannot simply cross this river. And this milkmaid was a simple village girl, took the words literally. that many have crossed the river of life by taking the name of the Lord, and can I not complete? From the next day she started coming in correct time. And now this Pandit, after a few days, suddenly it struck with her, how come that she has become so punctual? So he asked that what happened? That now I see every day you are coming in correct time. She told, no, you told that by taking the name of the Lord you can cross the river of life. What to speak of this river? So I take the name of the name of Hari and I cross the river. And he was surprised. Well, how is it possible? Is it possible? Well, yeah. Well, can you show it to me? Well, yeah. And now the milkmaid went back to the river. The Pandit followed her. And now the milkmaid, taking the name of the Lord, was just walking over the river. And this Pandit was surprised. And the milkmaid told, sir, you can also do it. Please come. And now he was wearing the dhoti. He picked up the dhoti and was trying to take the name of the Lord and cross the river. And he was drowning. And so how come that she takes the name of the Lord and is crossing, and for me I'm drowning? And this simple milkmaid replied that if you just pick up the dhoti and take the name of the Lord, what it speaks of? You are not Mam Upasrita. You are not taking refuge in the Lord. Somehow you have the idea that I will be drowning. That's why you are picking up the dhoti. So you don't have that faith that he will be, that those are one who has that faith. That's very important. That I have taken resort to the name of the Lord. He is bound to save me. Because I can almost force. Tomake dite hobe. You have to give me. That force is because you have taken total refuge. That Sri Ramakrishna's examples are wonderful, that a lady got attached to some paramour. Means it was not a proper relation. And now she wanted to run away with him. Now he was objecting. Now she almost went, she just thirsted on her, make her lie down on the ground, thirst on her chest, got hold of her neck and told, how come for you I have given out everything, now you have to take care of me. That force comes when you have really given up everything. So you can also force the Lord then. That for you everything I have given up. So you have to take care of me. You have to liberate. So that speaks of that Mam Upasrita. You know that he is the only refuge. I have given up everything for him. So God is the most jealous God. They will say, even in Bible that word is there. That when you say I love him, he will test you by really creating hardships for you to see whether you are attached to the world or not. When everything has been taken away from you, still you say, I am your Lord, then only you will find, then the Lord is taking, after testing you. It's not that easy. In Bengali, there's a nice way of saying that, Je kore amar ash, the one who desires me, ami kori tar sarbonash, I destroy him. Tobuo je kore amar, still the one who goes on hankering for me. Ami hoi tar dasher das, I become his servant of his servant. That in Gita, Bhagavan will be saying, yoga kshemam vahamyam, that I will be carrying in my head his yoga kshema. Its meaning is so deep, I won't go into because they are already gone beyond the time. So that's the Lord is saying, he becomes the servant of his servant. So one, we can really become this Mam Upasrita, not only Manmaya, not taking the name of the Lord and then holding him to the dhoti up. No, not that way. You just depend on him fully and then know for certain that Vita Raga Bhayakrodha is bound to follow. They are going to fall off. And then with this Jnana Tapasa, you are going to reach that abode which many have reached. Know it for certain. So that's what Bhagavan is asserting. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.